אהלן מאזינים ומאזינות יקרים, ברוכים הבאים לעוד פרק של דלתות התודעה. הפרק הזה הוא פרק שונה מהפרקים הקודמים, כי בפעם הראשונה זה פרק שאני מראיין ומקליט באנגלית. הפרק אירחתי את גרהרד פנקהאוזר. גרהרד הוא מוזיקאי, הוא מלחין, הוא סופר, הוא מורה מאוד מוכשר שעלה מאוסטריה לישראל. במהלך 25 שנים האחרונות הוא למד דרך טיולים, חוויות, נסיעות ולמידה ממפגשים עם יוגים, סופים, שמאנים שקשורים לעולם המוזיקה ולעולם הריטואלים המוזיקליים, סאונד הילינג והדרך להשתמש בצלילים כדי להעביר תהליכי ריפוי. בשנים האחרונות הוא גר בישראל, הוא מקליט, מייצר דיסקים ומנחה סדנאות וסמינרים. בפרק הזה דיברנו על הקשר ההדוק בין אדם ומוזיקה, בין צלילים ותודעה, ואיך אנחנו יכולים להשתמש או לייצר תהודה וצלילים בחיים האישיים שלנו כדי לעבור תהליכי ריפוי. איך אנחנו יכולים להיות מושפעים נקרא לזה אקוסטיקה או האורקסטרה האוניברסלית הזאת שיש בעולם ובטבע, כדי לחוות חיים מלאים יותר, רגועים יותר ושלמים יותר. לי באופן אישי הפרק הזה היה מרתק ומאתגר ומלמד. אני מקווה שהוא יהיה ככה גם בשבילכם. אז פתיח ומתחילים. Gרהרד Funkhauser, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm happy to have you.
Good to be here.
And just being honest, before we met, I hit the play on Spotify on a few of your albums.
Okay.
I usually do it before I interview someone. I'm reading a little bit about the person and I hear his works or researches, and I was touched by the music.
Thank you.
I love music.
Thank you.
Most of the time with my headphones, hearing music. And I think music have such a tremendous influence on our lives because we use language to communicate, and music is a language, is a way to communicate with ourselves.
I would say it's the universal language, you know. Like music speaks, you consider language of harmony. Every melody, every tone, every rhythm, every phrase, every composition, every song is expressing a certain picture of harmony, a certain image of harmony. In some of the ancient music traditions, musical melodies and scales were related to different times of the day, to different times of the year, because they paint a certain picture of harmony, a certain aspect of harmony, a certain atmosphere, a certain vibration. Like it's very different feeling an early morning from a noon or from an evening or for a late night, and music can express all those sentiments and those colors of nature and atmospheres. So it speaks a language that we all know. In tone, in rhythm, in harmony, it speaks the same language that nature speaks, just in frequencies, in vibration of sound.
In the past 25 years, you're researching music.
Pretty much so. Look, I'm in the, as an active musician, I'm in the field for like 40 years. I'm playing more than 40 years music. And around the last 25 years already, or even 30 years, my passion was more and more shifting into, you can call it healing music, music therapy, music and consciousness, shamanic music traditions. Like that really became my very big passion. It started from experiences in my young traveling years that where the music brought me to very magical experiences and moments that I could not explain mentally. And I started to wonder and to ask questions. What's the power of music? What's the power of sound? How can music affect me in such a way? How can a melody create that kind of image in my emotional system in my mind. How can I synchronize with people through music in that way? Like I just came to ask many questions, and that brought me to a place of research, wanting to find answers, wanting to find why music works, how it works. And it was a wonderful journey in those last 25 years, like researching that, investigating that from all kind of angles, scientific, therapeutical angle, mystical, spiritual traditions. Like there is a lot to find in that subject. The more you dive in, the more you research, the more you see, wow, this is an ancient subject here that we are touching upon.
It's a broad conversation about music because
Absolutely.
I hope to pack it in the time that we have. Originally, you're from Austria. You came from Austria and you traveled a lot in your life.
That's right. I landed in Austria, grew up in Austria, spent the first good 20 years of my life in Austria, but then already went on extensive travels. And yeah, I can say the last 30 years, I've been pretty much all over the globe, mostly related to music and musical projects. And yeah.
And you ended up here in the small controversial country in the Middle East,
The Holy Land.
the Holy Land.
So I my woman brought me here. To be honest, it's always the women at the end of the day that
Exactly.
are bringing us somewhere or leading our way. So it was because of love and because of my woman that I, not that I came here, but that I ended up living here. Let's say, and still. We are always with one leg also in Europe, spending the summers in Europe, spending a lot of time in the States, but having a strong base also here in Israel.
I'm saying that because people might not know you, and I'm intrigued to ask you, not now, how the Israeli Judaism, I won't say religion, but culture, affected on your music as a musician and as a producer. But the type of music that you produce and make, it's not a mainstream music. It's a music for the soul, for the consciousness, for healing, to touch people, hearts, minds, souls.
Look, I never thought which kind of music to make. It was never in my mind. It was never a concept. It was never a kind of something I planned out. I just happened to travel a lot and integrate a lot of different musical cultures and musical styles and attitudes and ways of making music, approach to music. And I felt blessed all my life to have that kind of stream of inspiration where music is just happening through me. Like all the music that you will hear that I produced in these last 20, 30 years, it's all our own authentic music, me together with my wife.
Integrations of cultures that you met?
Integrations of cultures, inspirations from different lands, from different peoples, from different cultures, a mix of my own cultural background and roots with what I'm encountering in the world. And this was expressing itself in a very graceful way through music and sound in my life. So I was never really asking. Sometimes I should have maybe asked a little bit more the question of style and category and in order to fit into certain genres, but I just never did. And I just felt the most happy with just allowing music to happen, allowing whatever wants to come through me. Because inspiration, it's a muse. Inspiration, we cannot control it. It shouldn't be controlled.
Comes.
It's a blessing that it comes to us and wants to deliver something into this life.
Did you always like music or playing or?
I grew up in a very musical environment, like from both family sides, mother and father's side, a lot of musicians in the family, music, poetry, singing at home. Like I think I pretty much had it all around me in my early childhood and youth.
You speak about the connection between music and consciousness
Yes.
and the way that music affects consciousness. So the following question is, I think it's the first question to ask. What is consciousness?
Yes.
By your definition, not by a dictionary definition, but what Gerhard thinks about consciousness.
I think consciousness is the ability of my essence being, my I am being, however we want to define that, we want to call that the soul, whichever name we give that, but my being to have the ability to witness, to observe, to relate to life, to receive information, to be aware, to be present.
It's funny because I ask that question every time because it's such a broad, undefined, unboxed word, consciousness.
Right.
You can't wrap it up. And every guest that sits here gives his own ideal of what consciousness is. And yesterday I was interviewing a neuroscience scholar that's told me that consciousness is the subjective experience of this world. And in that subjective sight of the world, there is something that is also united. There is a united consciousness.
Right.
And I'm saying that because music is uniting. The idea of music is to connect between people. We can see it in old cultures, old shamanic ceremonies, on happy days like parties or weddings. Music is always there in the environment. So, how music affects us?
Let's start with that. One of the main reasons, I believe, why we are so strongly affected by music, sound, rhythm, is because music and sound is already there within us. Like in the very, very basic sense, I would say we have a beating heart and we have a breath. These are the two primal rhythms of our life. If those rhythms stop,
We're dying.
we're dying. Means they have a significance. Those two rhythms are the most important rhythms of our life, our heartbeat and our breathing. And so, and then there is all vibrational activity on many, many levels of our being, on a molecular level, on an atomic level, on a nervous system level. Like in all the different levels of our physical being, you will find vibrational activity. So, of course, sound has a strong direct impact on us because we are sound, we are vibration, we are movement of energy, we are pulsation, we are rhythm, we are cycles, we are that music, we are that sound in a certain very broad kind of way to speak. That music and sound is already there within us. That's why we are so responsive to it. That's why there is such a recognition suddenly. It's like, or another way of saying is, we have that beating heart here. And when we were when we were still not born and we were in the womb of the mother, the first thing we received was the heartbeat
Of the mother.
the mother. So later on, suddenly in the life, you hear a beat. Imagine first time in your life you hear a beat, something rhythmical, a rhythmical pumping. It will immediately remind you to the heartbeat of the mother. It will bring a very primal kind of remembering of something, like where you come from, of something very old, something ancient, something. That's why sometimes we say sound is a primordial force. It connects us to something very, very original. In terms of origin of life, origin of our human existence inside the mother's womb, and so there is a very primal remembering that sound brings to us, and also a reconnecting. Like we so much, I think, especially nowadays in the modern life, we deal so much with this issue of separation, feeling separated from the world, especially with all our modern technology and devices, where we spend a lot of time in a virtual abstract reality.
Exactly.
But we are longing for connection. We are longing to be connected to life. What is life if we are not connected to it? What is nature if we don't feel it anymore? So we have that I think, very deep longing, all of us, to connect, to be connected, like you said before, to be united. If it is with people, with a culture, with nature, with life. And that's one of the functions that music has and gives us. That kind of primal feeling of being related, being reconnected, remembering.
It's interesting that you mentioned the womb, like a baby in the womb, because the sense that we all counting on is the sight,
Right.
right? And it's the most like illusionate also.
It is.
Sometimes things are not what you see. And in a funny way, our sight is the last sense that is developed, like
Right.
fully developed.
Right.
But the first one is the touching,
ears.
and it's the
the
ears,
yeah.
because we know today that embryos can hear music, and they can react to different kind of music. When my first child was, when my wife was in the first pregnant, we really liked Jan Tirzan, pianist, and we used to we did an experiment, a home experiment, and we put on our belly headphones, and we hit the play for a long time, for a few days, in a like constant hours. And when she gave birth, we put the music again, and she reacted to the music in a very relaxing, smiley way. So embryos remember, and they can hear music, and they can react to music, and it affects them. And if it affects us in such an early age, obviously it affects us during our lives. What was the culture that affects you the most, if we speak in terms of music, or your approach to music, healing music?
Indian music culture. Like I traveled to India in my early 20s, and it really opened up my consciousness to a different approach to music, meeting an ancient music culture where music and the practice of music is deeply embedded in a spiritual practice. Like it's not separate for them. The practicing music is a spiritual path. Yoga is, making music is a form of yoga for them. And also the music and sound and the work with sound is deeply embedded in their yogic tradition, in the spiritual tradition. So when you learn music in that way, from the beginning, your relationship to sound, to rhythm, to melody, to tone has a spiritual context. And that really touched me. Like I mentioned in the very beginning, suddenly meeting a culture where you learn a tune, and that tune is related to the early morning. Learning a tune, and that tune is related to winter. Learning another tune, and that tune is related to late spring. Learning a tune that is related to the river goddess. Learning a tune that is related to the sky. Like having that kind of ancient relationship between nature and music was really a new horizon for me. And also the culture of cultivating and kind of an inner music, working. If you learn in music in that way, you start by cultivating your breath. You start by being able to sing everything that you're gonna play. There's so many aspects to speak the rhythm with your voice. Like there were many elements that they had cultivated in this culture, not even to talk from the mastery level of expression that they gain in the process of their musical development. Like I came from a culture where you could study music, go to university 5 years, you get your degree, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly I came to a culture where we talk about 20 years, 25 years before anyone considers you
To a musician.
that you kind of mastered that musical style.
Why? Because you have to live the music.
Because
You have
it's so
to.
complex.
What do you mean? Complex to understand the music itself?
The Indian music, to master it, Indian classical music, it's vast. the amounts of melodic expression, technical development, rhythmical expression. Like in most of the Western music traditions, we work with rhythms of, let's say, 2, 3, 4. Yeah?
Beats. Yeah.
Yeah? And suddenly you're a culture, you work with rhythms of 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 13, 17, 21 cycles of rhythms that are so long that you don't even know how to count them. And they're playing that freely and improvising in it it's complex, it's vast. And also the level of musical expression is so high. Like I came across one really amazing master from India, and his name, I met his son, but his name was Hazrat Inayat Khan. You ever heard that name?
First, I need to pronounce that name.
He was a Sufi master of India. Yeah?
Interesting.
Like from the Sufi tradition.
Yep.
And he was a musician, had been playing music all his life, practiced Indian classical music all his life, and reached an enlightened state of mind through his practice of music. Because if you practice music 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, means you're in concentration, you're in meditation, you're in presence, you're in flow all this time. And so he reached what we call enlightenment, highest state of consciousness.
By the way, same as painting or writing or meditating.
Yes. And he reached that state of mind through the practice of music. And then his own master told him to stop playing music, because now his job is to tune the hearts and souls of people, because he started to understand the music of life, the music of the universe. His teachings opened up for me. I met his teachings in India, and they opened up a completely new horizon for me of approaching music. At first, by realizing that music is not here this thing that we call music, what we as human beings understand as music, but that music is much grander.
What is it? What is a genuine music? Not by the concept that we see on MTV or listen in our headphones.
What I use a sentence from him. I use a sentence of this Sufi master. He said, what we nowadays call music is a very miniature picture of the grand music of the universe, of the music of the movement of planets, of the harmony of the spheres, of the different levels of vibration that exist throughout micro and macrocosm. They are all arranged in a certain order. There is an order of harmony, and he distinguished between individual harmony, universal harmony, cosmic harmony. All of this is music for him. It's just a matter of concept. Where do you place the border? Where does music end for you and where does it start? For him, music doesn't end and start. For him, music is the expression of God. When God becomes active, when the divine consciousness becomes active, it creates a vibration, it creates a sound, what in Indian tradition they call the Om, right? What is it? It's a vibrational presence of consciousness throughout the universe. Like, it's how far do you want to go with your concept? So when I met his teachings, it really blew my mind wide open to what music can be, what you can allow yourself to integrate, to embrace as music. And I started to relate to music in a completely new way. Sitting somewhere in the forest and listening to the music of the trees, sitting somewhere in the river and listening to the music of the river, sitting in the middle of the city and listening to the music of the town and of the people, and suddenly relating to life in a completely different perspective. All of this becoming music, and my own musical expression being part of that. But no more that music is some art separate from, with a certain kind of
It's
category.
not separated from everything. I live in an urbanic zoo. Okay, I live in Tel Aviv. I can't say that the honking and ambulances and tractors here outside, it's music. I can't say that. Like me personally.
Right.
But when I go out of Tel Aviv, you spoke about nature before, right? And then you can hear a river, and you can hear birds, and it's like, okay, this is the music of nature.
Right.
The whisper of the wind in the trees. This is music.
Right.
Right. So music is everywhere. I don't know if you ever thought about integrating between cultures, because there is a combining factor. In every ancient culture have her own music, and some of them are very close to each other.
Right.
And you reached more than one, two, three cultures.
Right.
Could you tell if there is like a combining factor between different cultures on the aspect of music?
I think that at first, it, like you say, there is basically no culture existing on this planet with some form of musical expression. That already means and says a lot. It means music is something essential for us, for our life and for our connecting to life. In the ancient Greek mythology, you're familiar with the mythology of Pan from the ancient Greeks. The Pan, the god, he was a god that was living in the wild, in the forests, and playing the flute, and he was very magical and seductive, and all the mythology of Pan was that in order to get in touch with this kind of mysterious power of life, with this mysterious aspect of nature, of wilderness, of the divine, you needed to approach it through sound. Also, he was playing the flute, and with certain sounds you could come close to that kind of. So there is something in I found that in many mythologies, actually, of when I was researching that subject, that sound also mythologically brings that connection, to plug into something into a kind of a life force, into something that makes you feel, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm part of this. So I think there is this kind of underlying common theme, why there are no cultures basically without music.
Without music.
And then if you look at the different forms of use, of development of music, uh, in the origin you find kind of a more tribal cultures where certain musical rituals were bringing a tune into the harmony, let's say like that. You mentioned before certain holidays, celebration, festivities.
Weddings, everything.
Yeah,
Every
where
happy occasion that we have combined with
exactly.
music.
It could be a happy occasion, it could be a sad occasion, it could be a celebration of a certain point of time of the year, of harvest. Usually it was related to some specific purpose. But most of the times it was accompanied by music. Most of the times music was providing the general energetic field for that ritual to happen. It created the sacred matrix, if you want to say so, that connected people and glued them into this kind of happening. And usually the most common way to do that was by voice and drum. That was the essence of it. Like before all instrumental expressions, before all developments of harmonies and instruments of any kind, naturally, of course, there was a voice and there was a beat. Because people discovered the beat. And in the beginning, probably they just took some sticks and were beating some piece of wood or whatever it was before they were putting a skin on a frame and creating the first drums. But there was the voice and there was the beat. And so still until today, if you will look into more tribal cultures, their music will be based on beat and voice.
Which is very close to the heartbeat.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
And still, until today, most of shamanic rituals that you will meet and that I came across to in my life are based in their essence on drumming and singing. On the drumming and singing of a shaman, of a priest, of a one conducting a ritual. This is the essence and the kind of underlying common thread through all different music cultures.
So when you speak about the beat, the first thing that pops to my mind is that consistent beat in a consistent rhythm leads us to a transcendental experience or into immanental experience, to feel ourselves from within.
Right.
And in a lot of shamanic rituals, or I don't know how it goes with sound healing rituals, but there is a specific beat, or there is a beat that takes us within. And this is a partial process of healing.
Right.
So how music can heal one's soul, life, emotion, anything?
Okay, how to start that? That's a big.
That's a big question.
It's a big question.
Yes.
Okay. Let's start with the term healing. At first, I think the term is a bit overrated and a bit overused in the times we are living in. And nearly everything starts to become some form of a healing thing. But okay, let's leave that aside. I think the common understanding of that term healing has something to do with wholeness,
Right.
right? Or
Reconstructing yourself.
reconstructing a form of wholeness, a form of being whole.
Yeah.
So we are more than kind of fixing something or repairing something. It's about becoming whole, integrating something,
Right.
tuning something, cleaning something.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Means we have a situation. I always say we arrive here in this planet blessed and whole. And then we get messed up.
Yep.
Through life and experience, because that's life. So a healing process is a kind of a process that brings us at least back again into a state of tune, into a state of well-being, into a state of feeling good with life in a very basic essence.
We want to feel whole again.
Exactly.
As we just came out of this world, we came whole and pure.
Exactly.
And healing process, from my perspective, is to go back to that point. Because, from my opinion, life is not a school to teach from.
Right.
It's a process of remembering.
Right.
Right. So I think that's the whole holiness of
Wholeness.
whole. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, there is also that link between wholeness and holiness.
True.
Yeah? So music is serving that function to bring us back in tune. It helps us to establish that tune that somehow we lost on the way. It's not that it was gone, but it's like an instrument that you have there, that same guitar, when the strings are not properly tuned, sounds terrible.
True.
Yeah? All you need to do is to tune the strings, and suddenly this instrument sounds beautiful. And it's the same with us. Nothing's wrong. There has just
It's
been
off-tuned.
off-tune.
Things are not in their place.
Yeah, things happened in life that
Amazing.
kicked us off tune. Like that, just like many times, you can compare our well-being and our health of body, mind, and soul like an orchestra of many, many, many players. And in order for us to feel good, to feel healthy, to feel whole, this whole orchestra need to be tuned. All the players need to tune their instruments.
True.
They need to play the same symphony. And there needs to be a conductor that is conducting the symphony, and that's us. So there are all these elements and of our being that they need to play together in perfect harmony. They need to play together the same tune, they need to be tuned, and they need to have a conductor that is in charge of that.
So a healing process is a matter of tuning ourselves
Exactly.
up as a whole orchestra.
Like to look at all the different elements of our being like an orchestra that needs to work together as a whole and to be tuned. And once it is tuned like that, that's how we want to sound. That's how we sound our best. Or that's how our song, the song of our soul, can vibrate out into this world the way it's supposed to sound and not distorted. Or yeah. So when we are entering the field of music, naturally, a process of attunement is happening, a process of resonance. I have to, resonance is the most important word here.
Just resonance in Hebrew, it's tehuda.
Yes.
Okay.
The most basic phenomena, I explain it to you like that. If you have here two strings and they're the same tuned, you strike one of them, the other one starts to vibrate automatically.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
There is no connection between them.
But one affects the other.
The moment something is tuned the same, it starts to vibrate with each other.
Oh, there is an experiment with metronomes.
Yes.
That if you move one, like you move like 5 different metronomes in different rhythms, they'll start to be aligned
Yes.
with each other.
It means there is a communication on a vibrational level happening. There's an influence, an effect on each other on a vibrational level. If you are put into a certain vibrational field, this field starts to have, there is a resonance between you and your vibration in that field. And that's where that tuning process starts to happen. So when the moment you are exposed to a certain sonic environment, that's a sound environment, a certain music, a certain frequency, a certain field of energetic vibration, that starts to resonate throughout your whole being and affect your tune because of the phenomena of resonance. So that's the very basic kind of principle, how the influence is happening between music and sound and our own body, mind, soul complex by the process of resonance. Like when you go out, I give you a very simple explanation of resonance that has actually nothing to do with music.
Okay.
You go into an elevator, right? And you're with one person in that elevator, and you sense the vibration of this person, and immediately you kind of get an information of, are you having something to do with each other or not?
Yeah. Is he reachable, or we have a common?
Is there a common thing?
Yes.
Right?
It's called rapport.
Yes.
Okay.
And this will determine if something is happening here, if there will be a conversation or not, if there will be any kind of recognition or not, or nothing. It's all okay. But what happened here was a checking between the two different systems. Do we have common informations here? That's what two sounds do when they meet. They are checking, do we have something in common? And if there is in common, there starts to be a resonance. And they start to vibrate with each other. Right? That's why naturally when you go out into this world, you will attract people
that are similar to you.
Yes. Because with them you have a resonance.
True.
Yeah? Your inner tune is projecting out into this world and attracting certain things into your life. All by the process of resonance. And the other way around. The tuning of your environment has an effect on you.
True.
If you're constantly in a dissonant environment, at some stage that dissonance appears within your body and will create a vibration, a dissonance, in whichever form, in the form of a disease, in the form of a sickness, in the form of a stress, whatever it is, right? Resonance between us and our environment.
So I'll re-ask my question.
Right. I went a bit far away.
No, that's perfect. Due to that new information that you just gave me, I will re-ask my question. How can we affect on the resonance rather than be affected by a negative resonance? If it's a valid question, I don't know.
No, I think it's a very good question, because and a very important point. How to deal with life in a way that we are not victim of circumstances.
Yeah, because everything affects on our consciousness.
But that we are creators
Exactly.
of our own reality.
Perfect.
That we are creators of what we want to manifest,
Sure.
of our way of life, of our reality, and not the other way around.
Because it's super easy to be a victim.
It's very easy. Yeah.
Super easy. It's really hard to be the one that holds the reins.
Right.
So how do you do that?
This is not only an issue of music healing or of sound healing or of...
Sure.
Right? We're talking here about way of life. We're talking here about how to live life, how to deal with life, how to become the masters of our own life and not the victims of circumstances. I can tell you from my own experience, I don't believe in general recipes here, but from my own experience, I know what the music does to me in this kind of context. Every morning, I start my morning with half an hour to 1 hour of a morning singing practice. That is not so much a singing of beauty and melodic artistic expression, but it is a pure energetic movement of sound and voice through my body.
That you are singing.
I am singing. I call it toning. I sit down, it starts with the breathing, and the breath is carrying the tones, and slowly, slowly I explore and travel through my body with sound, with my voice, feel places that are a bit still closed, feel the resonance, open the resonance of my body, mind, and soul. And slowly, slowly, this kind of practice is bringing me to a place of centeredness, to a place of gratitude, to a place of starting this day from my own center, from a place of here I am.
It's a singing, or it's more like humming?
It's a humming, it's a toning, it's a singing, but it's basically working with the energy of sound
All right.
through my voice and moving that through my body, opening the resonance of my body, mind, and soul through my voice, through my breathing. And slowly, slowly, it kind of clears away the dust. It clears away what is left from the dreams. It clears away the confusions and overactivity of thoughts that are still going on. And slowly, slowly, what is left is more the perception of my own pure, natural state of being. And that kind of state, your natural state of being, relating to that or radiating that, being that, I think that's exactly that point that we are talking about. This is to come home, that you allow yourself to be that, to be who you really are, to feel that, and that your vibration, your relationship to life is coming from that
From within.
center within, from a place of centeredness, from a place of quietness, from a place of gratitude, to be alive at all. And this kind of changes the game, because like this, I feel I'm going out into this world and radiating something into this world. I allow my being to radiate into this world like a song, and not the other way around. And not I'm going out into this world and I'm overwhelmed from all the sounds and songs and noises and whatever this world has, because it brings a lot to us.
Yeah.
And that's also, I think, what one of the challenges of this time that we are living in, how to keep the movement one that goes from our center out into this world, and not one that is completely overwhelmed by the enormous amount of information that is upon us every moment. I mean, it's infinite. Like nowadays, with all the modern media and modern technology, the amount of information that we need to deal with and that comes to us
Enormous.
is enormous. That's also part of the sickness of these times that we are living in, of the enormous stress factors and depressions and I don't want to name it here, all the symptoms of how not being able to digesting and to integrating all this enormous amount of information that we need to deal with. So you need to have another practice, you need to have another tool that reverses that movement. Like I said before, that brings you back again, whatever. It doesn't have to be sound and sound healing or music. It can be for someone, it can be doing his morning walk and doing his sports and whatever it is. But you need something that brings you back,
Ground you.
grounds you into your core, that you feel, here I am. I am that I am. I feel myself, I feel my center. I'm ready to meet this world.
It's interesting. I asked you if it's more singing than humming, because when I put my baby to sleep, I hum.
Yeah,
I
that's
hum.
the best.
And when I hums, he relaxes.
Of course.
And I always find it intriguing how a voice can translate itself to frequency, to feelings, and a state of mind.
It's very simple.
Elaborate.
This is a very beautiful point you're raising here, because that's where it's really getting interesting for me, like because if we have the ability, let's say like the example you just mentioned, that you're sitting there with your baby, with your child, you're humming to it, singing a lullaby, whatever it is, and you feel the calming effect, how it is receiving that sound, this information. It's a very beautiful example that shows us that actually sound is only the vessel. Let me explain that. Every sound has a certain basic frequency.
Okay.
What we call its key tone or bass tone, and what we usually express in hertz. We say some 100 hertz, 200 hertz, 400 hertz, it's a A, it's a D. Yeah? What that says is that our basic frequency of a tone, usually it's the lowest frequency, doesn't have to be, but this is our carrier frequency, right? But this is only our radio station. This is not yet the program that's transmitted.
Okay.
This is the carrier wave. This tone that I'm singing now, yeah? It has a carrier wave. Let's say it was 200 hertz.
Okay.
Yeah? But it said nothing about the information that was delivered.
True.
It's just what is my carrier wave.
Just
right?
what my senses.
Like a radio station has a certain
Exactly.
frequency, but it doesn't yet tell you which program is transmitted.
True.
Right? So, which program is transmitted? This is what you pour into the sound. And that's where it becomes interesting. Because that's where you start to charge a tone with a certain emotion. Why your son or your child can be calmed and relaxed by your humming. Because in this moment, you pour all your love into this tone.
Into that sound.
Into that sound. Your intention in this moment is an intention of love, of calmness, of peace. All is good. It's all fine. Right?
True.
And that's what you transmit. So that's what you put into that cup, into that vessel. The tone is just your carrier.
It's just the messenger.
It's just a messenger, but it's not the message. The message you pour into.
It's my emotion.
It's my
intention.
It can be your intention. It can be a certain feeling or emotion. It can be an instinct. It can be a certain passion. It can be many things. It can be fear. It can be anything. And also that's where it becomes really interesting in terms of sound healing. Because many times people mistake a little bit the power of frequency. They think a certain frequency creates a certain healing effect. Many times in the life we are looking for recipes. We're looking for simple answers. This tone has this effect. This kind of tune is good for the second chakra. This kind of tone has this kind of a color. If you will, when I started to research the whole subject, in the beginning I found many of these kind of informations. I found many books of all kind of authors that claimed that music is this and music is that, and this tone has that effect, and the scale is related to the planets like this, and this frequency is from the moon, and this tone and this singing ball is connected to Venus, and and all of that.
Yeah,
and all
our
of
mind
that,
tried to box things in order
Yes.
for them to have some
And-
kind of logic.
And the more I researched the whole subject, the less I believe in all of that. The less I believe in any kind of recipe. I believe in experience. And if someone tells you this tone has this effect, and you need to sing this note to strengthen your liver, and you need to sing this and this kind of a tone, or play this and this kind of a thing to connect to the moon, I don't know what. Don't believe it. don't believe recipes.
Why is that when we're speaking about sounds? Because I can understand if we would spoke about diets and you tell me I'm keto, this is good for my body.
I think that the very simple reason is that it sells very good. Like if you go into a music instrument store and you have a set of Tibetan balls, you know, and of 7 Tibetan balls, and each one is related to a certain chakra.
So you will buy them all.
A spiritually inclined person will say, "Perfect. Here I have my set. I'll be tuning my chakras." Okay, simple example. So I think that these are all sales strategies, and there are significant frequencies because they are present in our world. They are present in our universe. They are present in our planetary system. There are frequencies and certain rhythms and pulsations and very big cycles of the planets and planetary movements. There are cosmic movements. There are frequencies and cycles
which are universal.
That are universal and that can in some ways be connected or related to a certain tone, also in our audio sphere frequency. If you make a process of octavation, that's what Cousteau did in his works, how he came to the tones of the planetary tones. For example, he just took the movement of a planet around the sun. Let's say a planet is moving 20 years around the sun. This is a periodical movement. It's happening all the time. And every periodical movement is a sound. It's just that this sound is a very, very low frequency. But if you octavize it, if you make an octave, the process of always doubling the frequency, already in 20, 30 octaves, you come into our hearing range. So like this, you can kind of create a relationship and say...
Even in space?
Yeah. You can say the movement of this planet somehow corresponds to a certain level to this tone in our audio sphere spectrum. So there is some relationships that we can make, that we can establish also between cosmic cycles, universal cycles, planetary cycles, and our range of audio hearing. There are frequencies related to the earth and movement of the earth frequencies. There are frequencies of nature. There are, but any kind of simplification in terms of this tone is for that and that purpose. This tone will have this and this kind of an effect. This tone will strengthen your whatever it is. Yeah, I don't believe in it. I think it's much more complex. We are much more complex being. Everybody has a different resonance frequency. Everyone has a different. Even if you work with sound for a long time, slowly you will discover maybe what is your own main resonance tone and frequency that is very, very different from human to human. And according to that, you will respond to different sounds and different frequencies than another human being. I just don't believe in recipes.
So in order to find my tone, let's say my relaxing tone, my enthusiastic tone, it's a matter of exploration.
It's a matter of exploration, absolutely. It's a matter
of by a recipe of that kind of hertz. Although, question.
Okay.
Our brain works on different levels of hertz.
Brain waves is
alpha. Why? It doesn't being affected by sound waves?
It is, but brain waves, at least according to our research, have a common frequency spectrum, independent, right?
Yeah.
We understood this.
It's a range.
Alpha, but still it's a range.
Yeah.
And that range leaves a lot of possibility
of playing in the range.
Within that range, you can still, all these ranges are still 1 octave, 2 octave of tones if you translate it in tones. So within that range, it could be anything: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, anything.
What is the importance of silence in music? Because silence creates the melody.
In a way, you can say silence is not an absence of sound, but silence is a space that contains sound.
Elaborate.
Like if you sit in the desert where I'm living right now, in our small village in the desert, there's a lot of silence. And if you sit in a silent, natural environment, you will realize it's not that there is a kind of vacuum of sound. It's not a complete absence, but it's a certain space. Silence is a space that contains vibration, that has the ability to contain music, to contain that sphere of sound. And the deeper the silence is, the deeper is the experience of sound, the experience of music. And also, whoever is a lover of music and more deep music and more meditative music knows and understands that those silent moments inside of the music, those pauses, those moments, they are making a lot of the experience. They are giving you that kind of feeling of comfort, that feeling of sinking deeper, because the space that it provides. So silence for me is more like a space than actually an
Absence
of sound, right?
Before you mentioned that there is a specific tone and music and sound for different seasons, different part of the days. If it's a morning, early morning, noon, evening. How, like an ancient culture, could tell the difference or could create a tone for every part of the day.
In the world of music, we are talking about cycles. And the cycle in the music we call the octave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Octave means I have a cycle where I start from a certain point, from a certain tone. I rise and rise and rise and rise until I come to the same tone, but on a next higher level. It feels like the same tone, but it's on a next higher level. Usually male and female voice are an octave apart. Like if you and the woman sing the same tone,
We will sing in different
we
octaves.
will actually sing an octave.
All right.
But it makes us feel it's the same tone.
I can say that I'm 32 years old, and this is the first time that I understand what is an octave.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So, and actually, the magical thing on the octave, I have to just,
Side note.
if already we are there.
Yeah.
Actually, if we are rising, if we are starting from a certain tone, like, and I rise my voice up, actually, the tone should become more and more different the more far I go away, right? If the frequency rises and rises and rises and rises, the tone should become...
Logically, yes.
Logically, yes.
But it's not.
But what is happening, in fact, is I'm starting from... suddenly I have the feeling I'm back. Suddenly I have the feeling I'm hitting the same tone. What does that mean? We have a spiral movement here. Yeah? Music moves in a spiral movement. Tones move in a spiral movement. They rise, yeah, and up they come
Go
again.
back to the same point,
Same
just
place,
in a
but
higher
on a
level.
higher level. What does that do? Nature does that. Every day does that. Every year does that. Isn't that the movement of a year?
True.
We start in the spring. We move through the seasons. Next year, we arrive again at spring, but in the next year, and in the next cycle, and in the next cycle, and in the next cycle. This is the nature of a spiral movement. So music has that movement. Now, and that movement, if we are looking at it in a cycle, as a cyclic movement, we call it the octave, right?
Yeah.
And that movement through the octave has a certain characteristics, and we musically we express it in melodies or in intervals that are happening in that cyclic movement. So of course, if we have a cycle of a day and the cycle of a year and the cycle of the octave, of course those tone and melodies have a relationship to the qualities the different qualities through that cycle. Of course, there are certain tones that are related to the morning and to the spring, and certain that are related to noon, and certain that are, you understand what I'm saying? It's the same movement. Yeah? Music expresses that same movement through the cycle of life, through the cycle of the day, through the cycle of the year, in melodies and tones. That's why the ancient cultures could find that relationship and say, those tones, they're actually related to the morning, because they come just after when the octave started. They're fresh, they're young. They bring something new, something innocent. In this tone, he is in the midday, he's in noon. You feel how strong he is. He is giving, yeah? And this tone, he is at the end of the cycle when you feel already like you go to sleep and everything.
Yeah. Your answer emphasized how music is embedded within us.
Absolutely.
Fully embedded.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because if one's doesn't know how to play, never played in his life, never even hold a drumstick.
Yes.
If you will start to tap and you ask him to join, in a basic level he will tuned. Like, we can know how to play if we want to. We have the basic rhythms which is embedded in us in terms of music.
Right.
Speaking of music, you launched a course.
Right. We, I say we because I'm working together with my wife.
Sure.
We're performing together, we are traveling together, we're teaching together. And the last 20 years already, we've guided workshops, retreats, and basically that are not only for musicians, but their aim is to bring people into an experience of sound and to expand with their consciousness, to provide a kind of energetic field for anyone to be able to experience the magic of music, to experience the healing vibration of music, to provide a space for them to release, to integrate, and also to teach tools how to be able to work with sound yourself, in terms mainly the voice. But the focus of our work all those years, we realized actually we loved it to work not only with musicians, but to kind of break that barrier of musician and non-musician, to say, no, we are all here and we are all responding to music. We are all actually can receive the gift of music, the blessing of music and sound as a healing attribute in our life, if we open up a certain consciousness towards it. I mean, if our consciousness is one of consumption of music, that nowadays is unfortunately very common because we are just constantly bombarded by music from all directions. I mean, all the clips that we are hearing anytime in social media and wherever, we are just have so much musical and audio information all the time that it can numb us actually a little bit from a real musical experience. So we are kind of teaching a different approach to music, how to remember a sacred approach, how to remember the original approach to music, like we talked in the beginning of tribes, that for them the purpose of making music was one of tuning to each other, tuning into the nature.
So how to connect back to
how to
music.
remember that, exactly, how to remember the ancient sacred purpose of making music, of relating to music, of using music and sound as a tool to plug into life, to relate to life, to be connected, to be united. And so this is more kind of a consciousness work to embody a certain approach. And then the music does the job by itself. Sound works by itself. But and it's been wonderful. It's really been a beautiful journey of doing this kind of work. And in the last couple of years, we were working on creating an online class of the essence of our work. Of course, it's not the same working in person and working on an online class, but I think
it's accessible. People can.
it's accessible.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was just important for us to make the essence of the consciousness about that kind of approach to music accessible online, and also we combined it with a certain guided music deep space experiences. So that kind of online class, it's called Tuning into Harmony, provides a certain consciousness mindset approach, as well as certain guided journeys for people to work with and to tune into. And that's been it's been a beautiful experience for me. It's been new also, like to provide that without audience, to record that online as a class, and you need to imagine your audience. But at the end of the day, I think I'm happy. I'm happy what we came up with, and so far, people seem to be able to work with it also online and benefit from it in a good way.
Beautiful. It's beautiful because there's a thing, at least it's my thing, that if you don't know how to play on something, or it doesn't have to be a play on something, music seems preserved just for musicians,
Right.
you know? And I was in, I think a few months ago before Yom Kippur, I've been in a ayahuasca ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
and came one guy, really talented. His name is Michael, and he started to play with harmony, with guitar, with a flute, and there was a cajon,
Mm-hmm.
and I just sat on the cajon in the middle of the ceremony, and I don't know how to play, but I just did what I felt that I need to do, and I've never felt more connected to something. I won't say in my life, but in that specific experience, I I wasn't playing. I was tuned or connected to that vessel or tool mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I don't know.
Right.
And and I feel that if I wasn't part of that ceremony or part of that ritual on a day to day, I wouldn't take that cajon and try to play because I would automatically feel failure because I don't know how to play. And I think maybe I'm wrong. Most of the people that don't know how to play would never reach for a tool or for a guitar and start playing.
There is that barrier for many people. Obviously, there is that barrier between uh, the professional world of music and musicians and me that doesn't know to sing, that doesn't know to play, and all of that, right? And in our works, at least, when we do retreats, when we do workshops, we always intend from the beginning to break this barrier, because it's fiction. It's not, we are all music. We are all able to feel music, to breathe, to hum, to sing, to maybe we are not able right away to compose a symphony, but we're able to make a circle together and hold each other and feel each other and move in a rhythm and in a beat. That's music. Like we are able to relate and in that musical way with each other. And like we talked in the very beginning, we are able through music to come into a resonance, at first with our own true self and in a healthy resonance with our environment, with that group of people that we are together in that moment, with those people that we are sharing the ritual in this moment, with those people that we are living together in that community. Whatever it is, we're able through music to resonate with each other and to be connected and united. And that's the important thing. If someone decides to go on a journey of music as learning a certain instrument and in an artistic, that's another topic to, and that's a beautiful thing to do, but it takes time.
Like everything else.
Like everything else, like everything precious in life,
Exactly.
it takes time. But it doesn't mean we cannot have a meaningful, precious, healing experience through music and sound. One of the original, or one of the really original sources to find there is the work of Pythagoras.
On music.
Yes,
Really?
yeah. Pythagoras was lived in ancient Greece, around 2500 BC. And he was one of the most important figures in opening up human consciousness to the multi-dimensional aspects of sound. He was in the same time a mathematician, physician, he was a shaman, he was a healer, he was a priest, he was a musician. He had an ancient mystery school and was teaching the mysteries that he had learned from the Assyrians, Babylonians, Egyptians. He was traveling 30 years through all the Middle East and acquired the status of a high priest in all of those ancient cultures.
I never knew that. I just hated Pythagoras because he's Pythagoras' law.
Most of the people don't know that. But he was one of the greatest masters of human history. And there is sayings about him that he was able to hear with his ears the tones, the movement of the planets. And by what he heard, he calculated mathematically their distance. And later on, Johannes Kepler, that really brought down the planetary laws into science, realized that he had been very accurate. Pythagoras was had a horizon that was unbelievable. But what I want to talk to you about is actually what his main point was. That music is expressing a universal law. And that universal law can be expressed in number, in geometry, in sound. And he understood the perfect relationship between it. Every sound, with its laws of overtones inside, has a perfect mathematical order built in. And the more I studied that and researched that, it gave me a very primal understanding of how music works and why it works, how sound works and why it works, why certain sounds have a certain effect and others have a different effect, because of the inner geometrical, the inner sacred geometry that is working behind the scene. Always, when I'm now talking to you, when I'm speaking to you, my voice has at least 70 different tones that are there, what we call overtones, harmonics of the sound, right? And they follow a precise mathematical law and order. And they create something like a sacred geometry that has a very particular effect that is now transmitted in this moment, through my voice, independently from what I'm saying. Just as the feeling context, like what you said, what we spoke about, humming for your, what is actually transmitted there is a code of overtones. That's the program. We talked about the radio station, but the program that is transmitted through a code of overtones that are layers and layers and layers, subtle layers of tones, and they actually create the real impact. They are the vessel. This is what is poured into the vessel, the overtones, and this was really the most important work that was done in the history of musical research was done by Pythagoras, in really finding out clearly that relationship between number and tone, between mathematics, geometry, and sound. How all of this is expression one universal language of harmony.
The integration between the mathematics and music.
Yes, that it's all expressing the same law of harmony, that is a kind of basic law of how the cosmos operates.
That's interesting. That's really interesting because in sacred geometry,
right,
you can see there are patterns. You can see the flower of life. You can see Metatron, the tetrahedron. You can see all of that geometrical perfect like alignments. Even the golden cut,
yes,
right? Fibonacci. You can see everything, and then you can take music and put it on a metal plate.
Yes, semantics.
And you will see the same patterns.
That's exactly
created by different tones, hertz of music.
Yes.
And this is like, you can see that, you can experience that, but it's really hard to understand how everything integrates one to another.
I think it's just fascinating.
Fascinating, that's the word.
It is fascinating, and when I saw somatic experiences first, there was this guy from Switzerland, Hans Jenny. He was the founder of the research of sematics,
Okay.
and he it blew my mind first to see that. I always knew that something like that is happening. I knew it also from the research of Pythagoras, that there is that kind of relationship between sound and geometry and so on, and mathematics. But when you see it first time with your eyes, you see in front of you this liquid, and suddenly there is a sound plugged into that plate with liquid, and that liquid shapes itself into a geometric figure. It's magic. It suddenly you realize, like, what is happening here? Something magical is going on here. And that's exactly the moment when that mathematic that is built into the sound starts to create a matrix of geometry. Yeah. And you realize and you see that, and then you understand, I'm 80% water, I'm 85% water. So that's what sound is doing
To my body.
to my body, to the liquids in my
Interesting.
body. And like, I think there is a lot more we can and we will still learn and discover about that in the future. The more we evolve also scientifically and technologically, I hope. This
See,
will
I
be
doubt it. You know why I doubt it?
I hope.
I hope, but I
hope.
doubt it. You know why? Because our ancestors knew more than we know without technology.
That's true.
They knew not by logic, by a higher intuitive consciousness.
That's true.
They knew more than us. We forgot. The life is a matter of remembering, not a matter of studying or learning, just by memorying. And it's super interesting. You said the human body have 70% water. More. Same as plants. And there is, in the Judaism, in Tehillim, there is a sentence that said, Shira yefala besamim. Like singing is should I translate it? Singing is a benefit for plants or for nature.
Right.
And there was a study that they took different kind of musics and sounds.
I know that research, yeah. It's beautiful.
And that's
So
beautiful,
beautiful.
to see. I have a plant in my house. It's like a tree. It's a love tree, small bonsai tree, and I pray next to him in the mornings.
Yeah.
In the mornings I pray, and I pray next to him. And this is the most beautiful plant that I have in my house,
Absolutely.
because it gets that's what I believe. Yeah, it gets my vibration, the words, the thanking. It gets my energy, my sound. I'm transcending not the radio station, but the content of the radio station to that plant, and it's amazingly affects on him.
Absolutely.
So that's how music affects on the human body, on the human soul, our emotions, and our behavior also.
There is a reason why in nearly every sacred tradition or spiritual tradition, music is considered a sacred art. There is a reason for that. And the main reason, it brings us in contact, in touch with something formless, with a formless divine essence. Like music is a formless art, right? It doesn't need a form. It's there in the moment. True. As a presence, like a temple. It builds in that moment of when music is happening. When you're in that space, it feels like you're in a temple. Something is uplifting you, but it's formless. You can't see it, you can't grasp it. But so music cultivates within us that sensitivity for the formless divine, for the formless aspect of the divine. And that's something very, very evolved, like to connect to the divine in a formless way, without needing a certain image, needing to call it mother, needed to call it father, needed to call it God. You know what I mean? But this is also uniting all people and all cultures in this world, because we will not argue in, my God looks like that, my God looks like this, no, my God said this. No, it's formless, but it's something divine. That's so beautiful for me with music, where it really has a very, very big part in bringing peace to our world. That's why we had all those musical prophets, if it was a Bob Marley and so on, because music has that power to connect us to the formless aspect of sacred, of divine, that belongs to all of us, without any cultural difference, without any religion, without nothing. Music goes beyond religion, goes beyond all of that, and connects us straight back to the sacred source of life.
Speaking on the other side of connection, there's connection and disconnection. Are there types of music that can disconnect? Is there such a thing?
Look,
I know that good and bad is relative, but
yeah, of course, good and bad is relative. But there is two different primal, different kinds of sound, of effect of sound. Consonant and dissonant. What does it mean? A consonant sound or a consonant harmony is one that is what we in generally would call beautiful, stable, harmonious. Actually, when we use the word harmony, we talk about consonants. Something that makes us feel good, that makes us feel comfortable, that is beautiful, that is peaceful, right? That's consonance. Dissonance is the opposite. Dissonance is two tones that they can't be with each other.
clashing with
They
each
are
other.
clashing with each other. You can't stand it. It's an aspect of harmony that is unstable, that is dissonant, that needs to change, that needs to transform, that creates friction, and that's its purpose.
There's a dubstep music or Skrillex music.
Oh, there is
non-offensive, non-offensive. It was like, this is a dissonance music.
There is music.
It throws you from one side to another, and it's not synergical, it's not harmonical.
But it has a different purpose. Like both consonants and dissonance, they have a purpose. And we are living in a world and in a life that is not only nice and beautiful. We're living in a world that has a lot of aspects. And even like being alive and coming into this body is very painful. And you know what I mean? This is a life that has not only joy, but also pain. And sometimes the function of dissonance is needed. Sometimes the function of consonance is needed. Dissonance is there to change something, to break something,
Nice.
to disintegrate. Like revolution is a dissonance, if you know what I mean. But it brings renewal, it brings change, and it brings again a place. Finally, we are longing for consonance. Finally, we will again long for stability, for something where we can rest on, where we can be. But the process might be dissonant. And that's what also we might be experiencing in this period of time in the world. There is a lot of disruption. There is a lot of challenge. There is a lot of dissonance. Things are shaking. Things are very disturbing on many levels, and we feel it. But that might be the process that we need to pass in order to reach a next level of consonance, a next level of stability, of a new horizon for humanity, however we want.
I love that perspective. It's the vicious and beautiful cycle of chaos and peace.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow. We covered up, I think, like 2% of what we can.
I told you it's big.
Yeah, an hour and a half. And that's good. That's good.
It's good.
I stayed hungry for more experiencing and learning. And first of all, before you go, if there is anything that you want to speak up for people, like a message, if it's things that we spoke about, and even if it's things that we haven't reached yet, if you want to give one message to the audience, a piece of advice, a golden nugget, a piece of philosophy from your perspective, what would it be?
I would say I really wish for all of us to every day remember that life is a gift. Life is a sacred gift. Life is precious. And to be in gratitude. I think gratitude is I can't overestimate that. Like, it's such an important attitude to life, to feel gratitude, to be thankful for to be here at all. If I weren't here, what could I experience? Nothing.
Sure.
I wouldn't be here. So to be thankful for to be here and to have that marvelous experience of life. I think that the attitude of basic approach of gratitude, if we are able to integrate that into our daily routine in some ways, be it in some form of a morning little ritual that just makes us remember that one thing. Life is good. I'm happy to be here. I'm thankful to be here. It's already a change in vibration. It's a change in vibration within me, and it will radiate out into my life, into this day, and bring a different day, bring a different. That would be one thing I really believe in, and that I practice every day. And the other thing is kind of, if you can, in some ways, slow down. Because it's all going very fast. Life is happening so fast. The rhythm of life is so high right now.
Especially today.
The intensity and the rhythm of life is very, very high. And it stresses our system to the max. It stretches us to the max. Like the amount of information, we talked about it before, we have to integrate and digest is really enormous. So anything that gives you in your life that moment of slowing down, being it to sit a few moments at the seashore or at the river, to do your walk in the woods, whatever it is, connect to nature, connect to some slower pace for a moment, find a way to do some form of meditation, some form of conscious breathing, of being present, of relating back to that source of yourself, to that feeling of, oh yes, here I am, that's me.
To tune ourselves up.
I'm alive, I'm here, I'm thankful for being here. And I take this moment and I feel it and I recognize it in this moment. That's already a lot. If we are able to have a few moments like that every day, that's already a good start.
We're good.
We're good.
Yeah. So, Gérard, thank you very much for coming here, giving me your time, your precious time, and from your knowledge and experience and your own private, personal journey into the world of music and healing music. I appreciate it a lot. Before you go, if people want to find you, maybe for the course, maybe for listening to music or things that you produce or play, where they can find you? We will add the links below.
If you add the links, that's wonderful. That's probably the best way to do is if they can just find the links to our Spotify channel, YouTube channel, or to the Tuning into Harmony class in your links. Otherwise, my name is Gerhard Pnekhaeuser. You can always find all my creations under that name. Website is Healing World Music. And thank you for inviting. Thank you. It was wonderful to share, to chat on this subject. It's my passion to have a chat on this, to share knowledge. I really believe in the meaningfulness of music for all of us, especially in these times that we are living in.
Thank you very much. And as usual, לכם, מאזינים יקרים, אני אגיד שאם לקחתם איזשהו ערך מהפרק הזה, אנא מכם שתפו אותו, העבירו אותו הלאה, לחבר, חברה שיכולים להתערם מהדבר הזה. וכרגיל אנחנו ניפגש בשבוע הבא עם אורח חדש, או אורחת חדשה, בפרק חדש. ועד אז, שתהיה לכם האזנה נעימה.